Welcome into the Oh Health Yeah podcast, brought to you by Healthy is Wellness. As you all know, our mission is to empower you to take control of your health and elicit a little bit of curiosity in your life when it comes to the world of wellness. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and if you have loved ones or friends that you think would benefit from this, share it with them. Let's get this thing going. Welcome in, Healthy is family. Happy New Year's Eve to each of you. It's about 2026, so let's get ready to rock this thing. It's going to be an amazing year. Today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting a Where Do I Start series. We're going to do 4 different episodes based around where do I start with each of our 4 pillars of health. If in 2026, one of your goals is to begin taking control of your health, then these episodes will be extremely helpful for you to kind of get a blueprint as to where do I start when it comes to either nutrition, sleep, calm, or activity. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk where do I start with nutrition. So kicking this thing off, we're going to tie into 3 different nutritional challenges or steps that we have. The emphasis of this is not to tell you that you need to take on all 3 of these, but what it is, it's 3 different ideas you can begin to implement in your life if it's something that you want to focus on. The first nutrition one that we're going to talk about is our concept of time-restricted feeding, or TRF. At Healthy Is, that's our version of fasting. What the emphasis on that challenge is how often can you get a 12-hour break from food, specifically at nights. So let's say you're done eating at 8 p.m., trying to wait to eat again until 8 a.m. the following morning. Within that 12-hour window, you can have water, black coffee, or tea, but the emphasis behind that challenge is how often can you get that 12-hour break? Why do we recommend that? We recommend that because it ties into a process called autophagy. The process of autophagy actually won the Nobel Prize, I believe, in 2017. I'm not exactly sure. Zach, you want to fact check me on that? Did autophagy win the Nobel Prize in 2017? I'm pretty sure it did. But what autophagy does is it's a cellular cleanout to where as you move, as you work, as you do things throughout the day, your body breaks down cells internally. If you can get a 12-hour break from food, your body will get rid of your broken down cells and generate brand spanking new ones. So at a cellular level, it allows your body to optimize its functions, and anything that you do in the future becomes much easier. Another thing that's a benefit of time-restricted feeding is it builds in a little bit of caloric restriction. We know that if your focus is losing weight or gaining weight, there is calories that play into those things. But this time-restricted feeding concept almost builds in a calorie restriction because you're trying to get a 12-hour break from food throughout the nights. Did you find it?
2016. Yeah, research on autophagy won the Nobel Prize in physiology or medicine in 2016.
2016, I was a year off. Okay, I was close.
Japanese biologist Yoshinori Oshumi. Osumi.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool concept. So the first little nutrition idea that we have for you guys to start, if you enjoy focusing on when you eat, time-restricted feeding can be a great place to start. And the emphasis on that one, can you get a 12-hour break from food? Second nutrition one that's a good one to start with starting the new year is eating real food. This is another step or challenge that we have. When we think of real food, we think of things that you can hunt, pick, or gather, and things that are single ingredient items. So like a banana, what's the ingredients of a banana? Banana. Steak, what's the ingredients of steak? Steak. Elk, same. Whereas when you think of something like a Twinkie or a Cheeto, the ingredient list on things like that is much higher. So when we're thinking eat real food, can you eat single ingredient items? And the goal behind that is 80% of the time. Can you indulge in single ingredient foods? Not to say that you can't have other treats or other things that aren't single ingredient, but when opting for nutrition choices, can we prioritize eating real food? That one's a very simple one, and it doesn't have to be that 80-20 split. You can dictate success however you want, but the goal there is, how can I get more single ingredient items in my life? That's a great way to start with nutrition as well. And then the third one that we have is our idea of no sugar or flour for breakfast. So if you're looking for a place to start with nutrition, this can be a great place to start. Looking at your first meal of the day, can you prioritize protein and fat in that first meal? The reason behind that, when you break your fast, if you take in sugar or flour, what it does is it spikes the heck out of your blood sugar. What goes up must come down and you crash. And that crash is signified by, dang, I'm craving something sweet, or dang, I need a nap. If you have protein and fat with your first meal of the day, what that does is it minimizes that blood sugar spike. There might not even be a huge one afterwards. And it also tells your body that you want to continue to metabolize fat until you take in a carbohydrate source. So no sugar or flour for breakfast can be a great place to start if you're focused on trying to metabolize fat in the morning, or you're focused on protein consumption in the morning too. Because if you're not having sugar or flour, you're probably having protein-rich snacks. So that idea of no sugar or flour for breakfast, whenever you break your fast, can be a great place to start when it comes to nutrition. So the 3 bullet points that we're leaving you guys with: time-restricted feeding, 12-hour break from food, eat real food. How can you have single ingredient items in your diet, or no sugar or flour for breakfast? How can you break your fast with protein and fat as much as possible throughout this first month? The goal behind this is for you to take on one of these, if you're focused on nutrition, that you want to take on in your own life. And when trying to pick which one you want to start with, think about what thing is the easiest to implement in your life and the most realistic. Because at Healthy Is, we want things that are true sustainable changes. We are not a fad diet. We're not a, here we go, we're going to do this thing and then fall off the rocker. So think about what's easiest for me to implement, and then think about what success looks like for you. Time-restricted feeding, success could be 1 day a week for you. It could be 5 days a week. But frame that in a way that's most meaningful for you and most doable. Thoughts on where do we start with nutrition in 2026? Those 3 bullet points.
It seems silly, but something I cannot tell you how many times I've talked about no sugar, flour for breakfast, and I don't eat breakfast. It's like, brother, breakfast does not necessarily mean the morning.
Yeah.
Breakfast, just like Gus emphasized, when you break your fast. Breakfast can be at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's the first thing you put in your mouth after you wake up.
Exactly. Yep, that's a big one. And a lot of people don't eat breakfast, and in turn, they're naturally getting success with that time-restricted feeding concept. So if you're one of those people that doesn't eat breakfast, okay, well, I'm already doing that one.
Doesn't eat in the morning.
Yeah, doesn't eat in the morning. Yes, doesn't eat in the morning. Yeah, sorry. I'm already doing that time-restricted feeding concept. So now, whatever I intake for that first meal, if you want to do that, no sugar, flour for breakfast, it can be huge. You're piggybacking 2 together at that point.
For sure. TRF. Oh, talking about women and how it's a little bit different for women for time-restricted feeding versus men.
Yeah. Men naturally can fast for a longer period of time, the majority, because of the fact that we don't have as much hormonal fluctuations. So as males, we actually secrete growth hormone when we get into more prolonged periods of fasting, like a 16-8 split, where we're fasting for 16 hours, eating for 8. Women have more hormonal fluctuations. So in turn, when we're talking to women about time-restricted feeding, we like to recommend that 12-hour start. For males, we can shoot for 16 if we'd like, but also be aware of the way that you feel. Trust your body. Listen to your body. Science has shown that a 12-hour break from food can be beneficial, but that doesn't mean it's beneficial for everyone. So trust your body and trust the way you feel. Females shoot for 12. Males, we can opt for 16 if you'd like. A little bit longer fast.
Okay. You got anything else for me?
I think those are kind of the 3 things that, when it comes to nutrition, keep it simple. And when you're thinking TRF, if you want to focus on when, that's the first step that you could take on. If I want to focus on when I eat rather than what, I can take on time-restricted feeding. If I want to focus on what I eat specifically, if that's your emphasis, eating real food could be a great one. And if you want to focus on your first meal of the day, no sugar or flour for breakfast can be a great one. So when you're trying to decide where do I start with nutrition, keep those 3 things in mind, and also keep in mind what's your goal and what's your focus. Because whatever actionable item you take on needs to align with whatever it is you're trying to achieve. So as you start 2026 thinking on nutrition, think through, where do I want to start with these 3 things? And maybe it's not nutrition. If it's not, stay tuned for these next 3 episodes that we're going to drop, where we look at sleep, stress, and activity, and where you start with those 3. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Enjoy your new year, and let's kick some butt in 2026.